county executive started his campaign, and things were no different then than they were now in June, he said we've had record economic success and tremendous job growth in this county. Now he's saying, well, things aren't so great. Okay? He's also said, as soon as he was elected, he said, I'm not going to play games by saying the tax rate is going down. It's the tax levy that is the measurement that I will be judged by. Now, again, Mr. Edwards, during his campaign last year, or 4 years ago, said, we don't need microscopic cuts to the tax levy. We need meaningful tax cuts. Meaningful tax cuts to the tax levy. Well, what have we seen? You didn't get meaningful cuts, didn't even get the microscopic ones. You got an increase of $1 million. Now, back to the question on unemployment figures. The key figure that I look at when looking at our economy is population. Because we may have a low unemployment rate relative to other areas of the nation and state, but look at how many people have left this county in the last 4 years. That is the key statistic as far as I'm concerned. If you don't have a growing economy, if you don't have a growing population, you're losing population. Look at our school enrollment numbers. They're alarming. I met somebody up in Fredonia who was telling me they have about 175 people in their graduating class and about 80 or so in their kindergarten class. That's alarming. All of us should be alarmed. And we can't afford to have an approach that just cites things that are happening out there. We've yet to hear a strategy from the county executive about what we're doing and what we're going to do. We need to take a bold new approach. We need to have an aggressive strategy, and that's exactly what you'll have if I'm your next county executive.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Mr. Edwards, you have 1 minute.
Well, I think it's easy to lay out the platitudes that we'll do more and we'll have a bold new strategy and we'll invest in business startups because those are important. There isn't anybody in the room that would disagree with the fact that we ought to help stimulate small business startups. That's a no-brainer. You can see that in any statistic that you want to. The issue is how you're going to do it and how you're going to pay for it. I just laid out the fact that we have done it. We have paid for it. As a first step towards going forward, we have some industry professionals in here that will attest to the fact we've invested 2 and 3 times more in helping local businesses start up, and they can quote the statistics for you over the last 4 years. Because it's the people on the ground doing the work, and it's the money you invest to get it done, and it's the resources you put out there for people to take advantage of. We've done it. The Small Business Development Center has been recognized as a leader. The 2 leaders of that are here today. It works right out of JCC, and the numbers have been impressive. What they've been able to do over the last 4 years in helping businesses grow. That's actually doing it, actually getting it done.
Thank you. Before we go on to the next question, just a reminder to those in the audience who are filling out index cards to keep your questions on the topic of economic development and plans to improve the county's economy. And Mr. Cornell will ask you the next question. From yesterday's Cable 8 newscast, a story that the IDA announces the shovel-ready status of a large acreage of land in Ripley along Interstate 90, land that could be used for a number of different business opportunities. What would you like to see go there and why? Retail, commercial, manufacturing, or something else? You have 2 minutes.
That's great. I'd like to start out first by saying the Small Business Development Center has been doing great work now for well over 20 years. And the election of Mr. Edwards as your county executive had nothing to do with the work they've been doing for decades. And I acknowledge that work and I fully support it. But that has nothing to do with this election. The interesting thing about the Ripley site, what I'd like to see go in there is high-paying jobs. Whatever's going to bring us high-paying jobs. Now, we've talked a little bit about Chemung County getting 600 high-paying jobs for a distribution center, CVS distribution center. That's the kind of thing that I'd like to see there. Now, before Mr. Edwards became county executive, the previous administration and the state had identified this as a premier site. And they had already hired a firm to go out and start to acquire some of the property to create this site. Now we are here 4 years later and it's finally done. I think we need to pick up the pace a little bit. I mean, this was a project that was started under the previous administration and should not have taken 4 full years to complete. And we're seeing this time and time again where some of these projects that were started under the previous administration are taking way too long to get done. And I can cite several more examples of things like this housing task force, very important to economic development. We had federal stimulus dollars out there this whole year. This was done well over a year ago, and it took a full year to appoint an 8-member task force. 1 year. And the day that they were appointed, which was the day after I had a press conference calling on them to be appointed, 2 of the people that were appointed to the task force hadn't even been asked. It was put together quickly at the last minute. So we had to come back the next month and do the work again and appoint 2 new people, because this administration spent a full year to appoint something that should have taken 1 week. So we're seeing time and time again foot dragging. We're seeing things that should take a matter of 1 or 2 years that are taking a full 4 years. We need to pick up the pace, folks. We need to get very aggressive with our economic development and start moving.
Time, okay. Mr. Edward?
I'll endeavor to answer the question that's asked, and that is what should go out in Ripley. And I'll tell you, it's an exciting opportunity for us, and it's true. I thank the moderator for the question. This is the first time Chautauqua County's had 140 acres shovel-ready, ready to go on I-90. It's been identified as being the premier shovel-ready site all along I-90, one of only 8 that I'm aware of in the whole state. What should go into that 140 acres? The easy answer is sure, high-paying jobs. But now the issue is how do you get them there? And in a distribution center, sure, that would be great. But the idea is getting it to the point where you can actually put it out there with international marketers to find the right business to go in there. That's what's happening as we are here, right here today. It's out there on the international market being marketed to the best opportunity that we can have come into Chautauqua County, into New York State, to locate there. To give you a perspective, those of you that are familiar with Cummins, this site has the capacity for 1 million square foot manufacturing facility, just like Cummins. That's the type of operation we're looking to bring here. High-paying jobs, growth and opportunities for everybody in this room and Chautauqua County. Now, we've heard a lot of platitudes again here in this last question that was answered by my opponent. But the reality is, why did it take 4 years? Because we were involved with the DEC and SHPO, and we had to go out and do artifact studies, and you can't dictate how fast those things happen. And we were the ones that went out and actually acquired the property, put it under contract, so that we could do with it what was most important and most appropriate for the county. That means we had to negotiate with 7 different property owners, negotiate the price for each of their acreage, acquire the right-of-way through another parcel so we could have at-grade entrance and exit from that. All that takes time, and appropriately so, because these folks want to be paid the right dollar to acquire the options to purchase that. So sure, would I like to have seen that happen in a year? Yes. The reality is you have to deal with the facts as you have them, continue to move projects forward, and what the facts allow you to.
I think what we've heard here is his excuses, and a lack of leadership to get this done. There's no excuse to take 4 years to get this done. It was a project of the previous administration. Again, they had already hired somebody to go out and acquire the property. And again, we dragged our feet for a full 4 years. Now, I will remind you, my opponent likes to talk about platitudes. I have specific plans. They're a lot more specific than a county executive that's been there 4 years. We have yet, I will remind you, have heard of any kind of strategy to grow our economy from our county executive here today. We didn't hear anything again this morning. We've talked again about private companies investing certain places, and somehow that's supposed to reflect upon the job that he's doing. We have yet to hear an economic development strategy, and I hope by the end of the day we'll get to it. But the bottom line is we've seen time and time again, whether it's a housing task force, whether it's the methane plant, whether it's the Ripley site, where we've had things that have taken entirely too long to get done. We need to pick up the pace.
Thank you.